Hello everyone, I'm Blair Bryant with the Steller Group. I'm one of the listing agents on our team.
And I'm Emily Lomborg. I'm one of the co-owners of the Steller Group, as well as one of the buyer specialists. So one of the headlines from the Denver Business Journal this month was September resulted in the toughest market to buy a home in Denver Metro's history. And a lot of that is exactly what we've been talking about today. So what does that exactly mean for a buyer? That means for buyers, they're competing. They're often encountering multiple offer situations. Like I touched on a few minutes ago, they might have a 30-minute window to get in the first day or two after it's listed to see the home and have to make a pretty quick decision. A lot of that is coming from, we still have historically really low interest rates. Blair mentioned buyers are able to buy higher than they were in the past. We still have really low inventory. And finally, we still have a lot of people migrating to Colorado. This is a great place to live. People from the coasts, people are moving here for the climate and for the housing prices and just many reasons, the outside activities. So we have a lot of competition that way. And it leads to a lot of pressure for buyers.
Right, I mean, think about that again. Getting into a house, you have 30 minutes to decide.
Yeah.
So if you're actively out looking for a house, what are some things that you can do to position yourself as a better buyer?
Really getting to know the neighborhoods that you know you're interested in. If a buyer knows their target area, I know I want to live in, a certain geographic area, maybe around family, around certain amenities you want to be in for school. So when a house pops up on the market, that's in your target area and it's going to be a place you're interested in and you're going to get out there and see it right away. There's no delaying.
What about when it comes to offers? So how do you position your offer to be in a competitive situation?
There's a lot of things buyers are doing today to make their offers really competitive. First of all, being prepared, and this is really hard, especially if you're coming from a different market, being prepared to pay at or above asking price. That's a tough thing to do, but that makes your offer competitive. Understanding what the seller needs. Maybe the seller is elderly and needs a little time after closing to move out. If you're willing to give them a couple weeks post-occupancy, that can put you at an advantage. Or if you're willing to line your closing date up with the seller's preferred closing date, that can really be an advantage.
Yeah, so this is what we're seeing a lot on the seller side. So if we get into a multiple offer situation, the sellers are asking, who should we select? How should we look at these offers? And really we talk about best price, of course, being the number one thing, because you can't.
Every seller's number one.
Yeah, and
right?
you can't get in the arena if you're not going to be in that same, in a price sort of situation. But in many cases, it's not the best price that wins.
Exactly, it's the best terms and having solid financing. Most people out there, they're getting a loan to buy their home. So not just getting the 30-minute pre-approval over the phone from a lender, but actually going through, or pre-qualification, going through a full pre-approval process where you provide all your pay stubs and tax returns and your assets and have your credit pulled, and then it goes through underwriting, because at that point, you're more in line with a cash buyer. If you have a full underwritten approval from a lender, then you're a pretty safe buyer, and that makes a big difference to a seller.
And Emily kind of spoke to this, it's terms, right? I mean, sellers are looking for who is the buyer is going to get me from under contract to close.
Exactly.
And a lot of that has to do with, because I'm on the listing agent side, I'm really more or less interviewing that agent when I talk to them on the phone too, to find out about what their expertise is and how well do they know their buyers. This is why getting a good buyer agent is very important.
Yeah, right now in our market that is heavily competitive, it's more important than ever to work with a buyer agent that's educated, experienced, understands the market, understands the contract, understands how to make the contract really attractive to the seller while also protecting the buyer's rights. We see a lot of agents that are encouraging their buyers to give away a lot of their rights that are really important through the contract process, but there's a way to negotiate without giving away all your rights, yet still making it attractive to a seller.
Absolutely, and putting yourself in a position, like Emily said, to get out there and be competitive, and to allow yourself to really navigate this market. You may not win that first offer, but again, as you get into the fall, and we're going to kind of move now into trends we're seeing as we get into October, what are the typical things we see in October in Colorado?
Well, I mean, the market slows down a little bit. We're starting to see the leaves fall off the trees. We have a beautiful view where we're sitting here looking out the windows of some really beautiful fall leaves. But the days are getting shorter. It starts to get chillier. We see snow a lot of times in October. And this year in particular, we're heading into a presidential election. This year also, we're facing unprecedented times with COVID.
A pandemic, yeah.
We don't know what that's going to look like for winter. So typically in October, we see a slowdown. Because of these added factors, we anticipate things could cool off a bit, but we're not seeing it right now.
Right. So the question is going to become for you, do I make this move now, this year? Do I do it next year? What I can tell you about the Colorado real estate market is that, as Emily pointed out, people are still migrating here. We're seeing more movement here. We're seeing the value of owning a house only become more compounded because, you're living, working, everything is happening inside your house. And I think that's why we've seen the absolute just deluge of prices go up this year.
Yep.
And so the question really becomes talking to a professional buyer's agent, listing agent, a team like the Steller Group can kind of help prepare you for what might be your options on selling or buying in 2020. As we get into 2021, who knows?
Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, last year when we were sitting here doing this exact same thing, we were talking about how 2020, the fall particularly, was probably going to be a very difficult time to sell based on 2016 and that presidential cycle. However, we're sitting in the record September when it comes to selling a house. Now, buying a house was the most difficult September ever to buy a house.
But keep in mind, over 6,300 buyers still went under contract in September. So people are buying homes.
It's a really important stat to know. We are the Steller Group. We're here to answer your questions. We have a series of videos on preparing your house for sale, what to expect when getting a pre-approval, what to expect when you're going out there and looking for a house, and we look forward to seeing you on our next update.